I landed in Austin at 22:47. No welcome party. No messages waiting. My name wasn't on the baggage claim screen, but I'd stopped expecting that a long time ago. The Uber driver didn't talk. I appreciated that. South of the airport, the roads went black and empty, and the streetlights blinked out in patches like old memories. I counted every turn from muscle memory, then stopped when I realized I wasn't checking for directions. I was checking for exits. We pulled up to the curb outside my mother's house. Mike's house, legally, if you looked at the deed. Same cracked walkway, same faded Marine Corps flag on the porch, drooping like it had finally given up. I didn't see his truck. That didn't mean anything. I paid the fare, declined the receipt, and stepped out. The porch light was off. It hadn't been off when I was a teenager. It had always been left on, even when no one was coming home. That told me something. I stood in the dark a few seconds longer than necessary. No sounds from inside, no shadows moving behind the blinds, just a single flicker of bluish light from the back room, probably the TV. I reached up and pulled the gutter loose at the corner. The key was still there. Electrical tape, black against rusted metal, still holding. I unlocked the door, stepped inside. The smell hit me first. Meat grease. Artificial lemon. The sharp chemical sting of whatever discount cleaner Mike used on the carpets every Sunday, as if the house had to be sterilized to remind everyone who was in charge. I didn't turn on the light. I didn't need to. My boots knew the boards that creaked and the ones that didn't. The photos on the walls hadn't changed. Mike and Jack at Jack's OCS graduation. Mom, thinner than she should have been, caught in a smile that didn't reach her eyes. And one older picture, me and Jack at ages 8 and 11, standing in front of a state fair sign. He was holding a ribbon. I was holding the backpack. I remembered that day. I remembered the heat. The hallway narrowed the farther in I went, like the house had learned how to trap people. I reached the edge of the kitchen, still silent, still dim, and dropped my duffel just outside the laundry room. That's when I heard the boots, heavy tread, deliberate steps. Mike. He came around the corner in a frayed hoodie, military green, beer in hand, socks instead of shoes. Even half drunk and bloated from the recliner, he still moved like someone expecting to be saluted. He stopped when he saw me. "Well," he said, "look what the desert dragged in." I didn't answer. He took a sip. Long. Loud. Then pointed the neck of the bottle toward me like it was an order. "You show up unannounced, middle of the night? I thought you were staying on base. That what you said last week, or was that the week before?" Still, I said nothing. He stepped closer. His voice dropped a register. He liked to do that. Made him feel like he was still in uniform, still commanding someone. "You think this is some kind of motel? You think you can come and go without checking in, without permission?" I met his eyes briefly, then looked away. Not because I was afraid, but because he wanted me to look. Because not looking reminded him he didn't control the outcome. He didn't like that. "Hey," he said sharply, "look at me when I'm talking to you." I reached into my back pocket slowly, deliberately. Pulled out the black ID wallet. No flash, no flourish. Just the weight of the plastic and the quiet authority printed on the inside. I opened it. He leaned forward to read. There was a beat, then another. He blinked. I closed the wallet, his mouth twitched. "Is that real?" he asked. I didn't answer. "Jesus," he muttered, stepping back. "That's... Christ. They give you clearance for that?" I didn't nod. I didn't shrug. I picked up my bag and moved past him. He didn't stop me. He didn't move. The stairs creaked beneath my weight as I climbed. Third step from the top, still loose. Still unrepaired, despite the chore lists and Sunday sermons about home maintenance. Some men fix nothing but expect everything to run on schedule. At the top of the landing, I turned left toward the guest room, the one they called Ashley's room, though nothing in it belonged to me. Twin bed, beige walls, a dresser that hadn't held my clothes since 2011. The only sign I'd ever lived here was the old high school plaque still hung crooked near the door. Most improved girls track. They'd left that one up, probably because it made them feel generous. I placed my bag on the floor, sat on the edge of the bed, and let my spine settle. Below, the television flicked channels, then muted, then silence. I didn't check on my mother. I'd already checked, set up the nurse rotation, ordered the supplies, paid for the hospital bed out of my private account. She was safe for now. That's why I'd come. Not for Mike, not for closure, for her. The door opened without a knock. He filled the frame again. "I didn't know you were still in," he said, softer now. Not apology, just recalibration. I didn't answer. He scratched his jaw. "You're what, cyber intel or some Pentagon desk gig? That it?" Still no answer. "You ever see real action?" I turned my head slightly. "You ever lose anyone?" he asked. Wrong question. Wrong house. I looked back down at the floor and said, quiet and final, "Lock the door behind you." He stood there a second too long, unsure if he'd been dismissed or ignored. He chose wrong. I heard his retreating steps. The lock clicked, and then I was alone. I lay back on the mattress. No blanket, no pillow, just silence and the sound of systems resetting. The house had underestimated me again, and I was letting it. For now. Morning came early, though I hadn't slept. Just lay still and let time move. Around 5 o'clock, I heard Mike in the kitchen. His footsteps were different in the morning, quieter, more purposeful. He didn't slam drawers when he thought no one was watching. He brewed coffee the way Marines learn to, strong, hot, fast, as if caffeine had somewhere to be. I stayed upstairs until I heard the front door open and close. He took the truck. I gave it 20 minutes, then got up. Mom was awake, propped upright, propped carefully. She smiled when I walked in, but I could see the pain behind it. It was in her hands more than her face, how they trembled just slightly on the blanket, how her fingers hesitated near the water glass. I checked her meds, timed the next dose, helped her to the restroom, adjusted the sling. "I'm fine," she said, quiet but strained. "You don't have to say that." "I do, though." She looked past me to the hallway, then back. I nodded. Understood. Afterward, I cleaned. Not because the house needed it, but because it gave me space to move. Scrubbed the bathroom until my back hurt. Ran laundry. Reorganized the medicine drawer Mike had handled into something that wouldn't kill her by accident. At 10:30, he came back. He didn't speak right away, just dropped his keys on the counter like the clatter meant something, then leaned against the fridge, arms folded, assessing. I didn't look up from the dishes. "So you're just gonna take over?" I kept rinsing. "She doesn't need all that. It makes her feel helpless." I set the plate down gently in the drying rack, turned the water off. He waited. I dried my hands. "If you'd like to give her the next injection yourself," I said, "you'll find the pre-filled syringes in the top left bin of the fridge, the labeled one." His jaw tightened. "That's not what I meant." I nodded. "Then be clearer." He stared at me. A long beat, then walked out. That afternoon, a list appeared on the counter. Handwritten, block letters. Mike's signature format. Chores for the week. Trash, gutters, garage, mow the lawn, clear the shed, fix the back fence, Sunday dinner prep. He didn't hand it to me, just left it next to my coffee cup like it was a treaty. I read it twice, folded it, put it in my pocket. The next morning, I did the trash first, bags out by 7 o'clock, then the gutters, gloves, ladder, tarp for the debris. Took 2 hours, quiet work. No music, just the scrape of old leaves and the creak of rusted metal. He watched from the window. I didn't wave. The garage took the rest of the day. I sorted his tools by function, then by size, cleaned the bench, oiled the hinges, fixed the fluorescent light he'd been swearing at for months. When he walked in after dinner and flipped the switch, it worked. He grunted. "You didn't have to do all that." "I know." I finished the rest by Friday. Fence repaired, lawn cut, shed cleared. Saturday morning, a new list appeared. longer. I did that one too. He didn't say thank you. He did stop giving me direct orders. Just wrote things down and waited to see if they'd get done. They always did. On Sunday, we sat down to dinner. Just the three of us. Chicken, green beans, boxed potatoes. Mom ate slowly, her left hand still weak. Mike didn't speak much, just refilled his glass and cleared his plate like he'd earned it. Afterward, he looked at me. Not hard, just long. "You always this quiet?" I didn't answer. He sipped. "You weren't like this as a kid. You were mouthy." People forget what kids remember. He'd been at my high school graduation with a sunburn and a flask in his jacket pocket. Took one look at my name not being called for honors and said, "Well, at least Jack made up for it." I cleared the plates. That night, I ran updates from my laptop. Quietly. Secure connection. Encrypted comms. No classified transmissions on domestic networks. Just routine briefings. A few operational summaries. A small request from a field unit in Europe. Intel support for a sabotage probe near a border facility. I routed it through the appropriate node. Logged the timestamp. Then logged off. At 2:14, I heard him in the hallway. Stopping outside my door. I didn't move. Eventually, he walked away. Next morning, I found a coffee cup waiting for me on the counter. My brand. Black, no sugar. I drank it. That evening, he asked a question. Just one. "You still active?" I didn't answer. He nodded like I had. Days passed like drills. Repetition became structure. I woke early, checked on Mom, cleared the lists. He hovered less, spoke less. But his voice, when he used it, shifted. Softer. Measured. On Wednesday, he told a story about Iraq. Started strong. Carried himself like it mattered. Then paused mid-sentence when I walked in. Forgot the ending. Said, "Never mind." I washed my hands at the sink. Listened to the silence fill in the blanks. Friday night, I caught him on the porch. Alone, lights off, sipping something too dark for beer. I stepped outside. He didn't look at me. "Jack called," he said. "Asked about you." I waited. "I told him you were still figuring things out." I said nothing. He looked at me then. Not up, just sideways. Should I have said something else? I let the silence do the work. Eventually, he nodded. Took another sip. Went back inside. Later that night, I opened the secure line again, sent 3 directives, cleared 1 holding pattern, approved a resource reallocation tied to an op I couldn't name. Everything logged, everything quiet. Mike was asleep before I shut the lid. He snored like someone trying to win something. Saturday morning, no list appeared. I walked the perimeter anyway, not for him, for me. Checked the fence, the shed, the lock on the side gate. Back inside, I heard him vacuuming, badly, but trying. That afternoon, he knocked once before entering the living room. "I talked to the VFW," he said. "Told them about you." I kept reading. "They want to meet you sometime. Said we should bring you by." "I'm not available." He paused. "They'd respect you more if they knew." "They don't need to know." He stood there, stuck between pride and confusion. "You don't have to keep it a secret, you know." I looked at him then. Steady. Final. "It's not a secret. It's just not yours." He didn't come back after that. Sunday was quiet. Mom was stronger. She managed her meds herself, walked a few steps unaided. She looked at me once and said, "He's trying." I didn't reply. Trying wasn't the same as changing. That night, I emailed command, requested return authorization, included the medical update, progress log, and verification that her care could continue without me. The reply came in 2 hours. Approved. I didn't tell them yet. I wanted one more morning. The call came at 3:17, encrypted, triple authenticated, Origin Northern Command. They only used that route when something was already in motion. I slid the earpiece in, sat up, opened the laptop. The screen came alive, dark blue over black. No names, just mission tags and timestamps. Blackbird confirm. Online. Voice only, no video. A file opened. System breach advisory. Malicious code embedded across transit monitoring nodes in 3 major corridors. Amtrak Northeast, Metro North, SEPTA. If triggered, it wouldn't just disrupt, it would collapse movement for 12 million people. Freight, fuel, civilian logistics. Cold states in winter. No backup plan. I scanned the code strings, familiar patterns. I'd seen this actor before. State-backed indirect warfare. No obvious fingerprints, just pressure. Enough to crack something larger. The room was silent but for the soft hum of the processor. I toggled my interface, pulled archived heuristics, launched an active shell, isolated the infected node. Time to breach? The voice asked. 3 hours. Time to fix? 1. Proceed. I set the sequence, bypassed the tracer, implemented a kill switch under burner protocol. Manual override engaged. Final confirmation required. I lifted my finger to confirm, and that's when the pounding started. Ashley, trash goes out now! I didn't move. 3 more bangs on the door. I said now, you don't get to sit around all day. I hit confirm. A small beep. Then silence. Virus neutralized. Grid stabilized. Infrastructure preserved. I closed the window, disabled comms, shut the laptop, and stood. When I opened the door, Mike was still standing there, puffed up, breath heavy with beer and self-importance. You think you're above this house? You think your mother needs to see you lazing around while she's... I stepped around him. He followed. You've been here a week, eating, sleeping on that damn laptop. I picked up the trash bag, walked to the bin outside, lifted the lid, dropped it in, closed the lid, walked back inside. Didn't say a word. He stood by the sink, trying to decide if he was still angry or confused. Maybe both. I'm just saying, he muttered. Respect matters. Chain of command. I didn't look at him, just washed my hands. Then I said, if you ever bang on my door again while I'm working, I'll involve someone above your clearance. He blinked. What? I dried my hands, folded the towel. You don't know what I do, and you don't need to. He started to speak, then didn't. That afternoon, he didn't speak to me at all. That night, he stayed upstairs. By Monday, I had my departure date. I told Mom first. She nodded. Quiet, said she understood, said she'd be okay. You've done more than enough. I know. We sat for a while in silence. She reached out, rested her hand on mine. Just promise me you'll stay safe. I looked at her hand. The bones thin beneath the skin, the pressure light, but deliberate. I always do. Mike wasn't home when I packed. I didn't wait for him. I folded everything precisely. No need to leave anything behind. The laptop slid easily into the padded case. The ID went in the inside pocket. Civilian clothes on top, boots strapped to the side. I left no trace. By 1800, I was dressed and ready. Formal uniform. Not dress whites, operational blues, subtle insignia, polished bars. The hallway felt smaller than I remembered, dimmer. I walked down slow. Mike appeared at the end, like he'd been waiting, standing straight, like someone summoned. He looked at the uniform, at the stars. His mouth opened, closed. I didn't slow down. When I reached him, he stepped aside, shoulders back, hands behind him, eyes down. After you, ma'am, he said. Not Ashley, not you. Ma'am. I passed him without a sound. That was the last word he ever said to me. But that wasn't the end. 2 weeks later, Command forwarded a notice. A local man had been using my name and title at a nearby VFW to gain access and recognition. Claimed to be my mentor. Claimed to have shaped my military ethic. Claimed we coordinated deployments together. He was bragging, embellishing, dropping ranks and codes he didn't understand, lining up drinks on my reputation, asking questions he had no clearance to ask. I didn't get angry. I got a pen. I drafted a cease and desist through legal counsel. JAG reviewed, approved, and delivered. Formal language, official seal, stated plainly, unauthorized use of military affiliation, misrepresentation of classified connections, and potential implications for federal review. Mom called me 3 days after it arrived. "He opened it at the table," she said. "Didn't say a word, just sat there." "Good. He hasn't mentioned you since." "He won't." And he didn't. Months passed. I deployed twice. One classified, one visible. Briefings, operations, relief routing after a quake on the Pacific Rim. No headlines, no medals, just outcomes. I sent Mom a generator through military channels. Not standard, but permitted under our disaster relief auxiliary. She called me crying. I stayed quiet. Let her cry. Jack texted once. "You still in?" I replied, "Always." He didn't ask what I meant. Mike faded. Word got back through old channels. He stopped showing up to the VFW, said his kid had gone dark, that she was somewhere high enough he wasn't allowed to ask. He got one thing right. I wasn't available. San Diego was warm that spring. The kind of sun that doesn't sting, just lingers. The officers' club sat high on the bluff, overlooking water so blue it looked artificial. I arrived just before 1400, in uniform, no +1. I didn't RSVP. I didn't need to. Jack's medal ceremony had been delayed twice. Logistics, travel conflicts, budget approvals. But eventually, the department found a date that worked. A citation for valor under duress. A convoy compromised overseas. Decisions made in seconds. He'd done well. I never said otherwise. Mom was already inside when I walked through the doors. She wore navy, her makeup set too carefully. She smiled when she saw me, a smile that said she'd been waiting, but not expecting. Mike stood beside her, hands clasped behind his back like a commander at ease. I saw him register the uniform, then the bars, then the nameplate. His eyes flinched. I gave no reaction, just nodded once at Mom and walked past them toward the seating. The room was arranged in thirds: family, officers, public relations, standard order. The flag stood at attention near the lectern, and the projection screen above it looped quiet footage of desert roads, radio comms, sand kicking up behind wheels. I sat near the back. Mike's voice carried from the middle rows, loud enough to be heard, not loud enough to be corrected. "That's my boy," he was saying. "Whole family's proud. Not everyone makes it this far." A woman with silver earrings asked if his daughter had served too. He laughed. "Ashley? No, she files papers somewhere, thinks she's top secret, never went through what Jack did." More laughter. Polite. Not cruel. I didn't move. A colonel I knew passed by and paused. "Ma'am," he said, nodding. I returned it. The ceremony began at exactly 14:30. The commanding officer stepped to the mic, cleared his throat, waited for the room to hush. "Today," he said, "we recognize courage not just in the field, but under pressure no training could prepare for." He listed names, timelines, protocols. Jack's unit, Jack's choice, Jack's resolve. Applause. Jack stood at the front, humble but composed. He was always good at that. Calm without arrogance. The medal was presented. Photos were taken. Then the commander raised a hand for quiet again. "Before we close, there's one more acknowledgement." The room shifted. This operation's success, what the public will never see, also depended on real-time intel routed from a command desk 7,000 miles away. Without that decision, without that override, this ceremony would be a memorial. He paused. Call sign, Blackbird. Stand and be recognized. The room didn't go silent. It froze. 2 operators in the back snapped to attention. The colonel beside me stood, then another and another. I rose, slowly. No smile, no speech, just precision. A wall of uniforms faced me, saluted. Jack turned, stunned. Mike's mouth opened, closed, then opened again. "Who the hell are you?" he said, too loud. I walked to the front, returned the salute, then turned toward him. Not close, just enough. "I'm the one who's been winning your wars." Then I left. Outside, the wind off the ocean cut through the heat. I didn't look back. Not at the windows, not at the doors, not at my brother, frozen mid-step with the metal still pinned to his chest. Recognition doesn't require applause, only witnesses. The car was waiting at the curb. I slid in, closed the door, gave no command. The driver knew. At the next light, my phone buzzed. Jack. I ignored it. 3 texts followed. One from Mom, one from Mike, one unsigned. I deleted them all. That evening, I flew back east. By midnight, I was in briefing again. No welcome home, no questions, just orders. Exactly how I preferred it. Mike's name showed up in an incident report 2 months later. Not criminal, not dramatic, just administrative. A junior analyst flagged irregular activity at the base gate in San Antonio. A man trying to use a dependent ID card that had expired 3 years prior. Claimed he had access under a family designation. Claimed he was visiting his daughter, a high-ranking officer. Security reviewed the logs. There was no such visit scheduled, no such designation authorized, no dependent record matched his file. They sent the alert to me, standard protocol. The system didn't recognize the name, but someone in the office did. Is this your father? No. Relative? Not anymore. They logged it, closed the report. No escalation, just a red flag quietly attached to his name. No access, no proximity, no excuses. That would have been the end of it until I got word he'd spoken at the VFW again, this time to press, local media, not national. Just a puff piece about veterans mentoring the next generation. The article included a photo. Mike in front of the flag, arm around a young cadet, captioned, "Retired Sergeant Michael Dean, mentor to Admiral A. Dean, shares insight on leadership, legacy, and sacrifice." There was no admiral, not yet, and no permission. He'd pulled rank that didn't belong to him, spoken on behalf of a command he'd never seen, given quotes under a title he'd borrowed from my file. That was when I stopped waiting. I drafted the letter myself, direct, formal, precise. To whom it may concern. Subject, unauthorized use of title and affiliation, stolen valor review request. I outlined the facts, his name, his claimed connection, the false rank, the photo, the quote. I attached documentation, dates, screenshots, statements, quiet records, no emotions. I sent it through proper channels, not to punish, to clarify. Within a week, he received a letter of inquiry from the Department of the Navy, Office of Public Affairs. It asked him to verify his relationship, explain his use of restricted language, and provide documentation for public statements regarding military command relationships. Mom called. He got something official. It scared him. Good. He's saying it was a mistake. It wasn't. Silence. Then, he says you set him up. No, he did that on his own. 3 days later, he removed every photo from the local post wall, stopped showing up, stopped talking about me. He disappeared himself. That was his instinct, control the story before it got told. I let him. The formal review closed without public action. No need. He'd stopped. That was the point. Not punishment. Silence. The following month, I transferred stations, new region, higher level, less noise. I updated my file, removed next of kin, removed home address, removed everything tied to the house on Ridgeway Lane. It wasn't mine anymore, if it ever had been. I saw him once after that. It wasn't planned. Base event. Open house. Not secure, not restricted. Family access approved through someone else's guest list. He must have known I'd be there. Or maybe he came on instinct. Some final attempt. He didn't approach. He watched from the far side of the hangar next to a display case showing medals I hadn't hung myself. He wore a polo shirt tucked into jeans. His hair was thinner, his posture lower. I didn't look at him directly, just kept walking. Halfway through the briefing, I stepped off stage to take a call. When I returned, he was gone. No message, no note, just absence. It suited him. He sends Christmas cards now, every year, blank ones, no message inside, Just the family name printed at the bottom in small, neat letters. I don't open them. I don't return them. I don't mention them. Mom still calls occasionally. She asks how I am, then answers herself before I can speak. You're probably busy. Important things. I let her talk. Once she said, "He's proud of you, you know." I didn't reply, because pride without apology is just decoration, and I don't collect trophies. On my last day in Texas, I walked the hallway one final time, in full uniform, not for Mike, for me. The stairs still creaked. The air still smelled like lemon cleaner and something older underneath. Mike stood at the end of the hall. Not blocking, just there. When he saw the insignia on my collar, he moved aside. Not fast, not slow, just enough. "Ma'am," he said. I didn't nod. I didn't smile. I walked past him, steady, deliberate, final. That silence carried more weight than any confrontation, because it wasn't absence, it was authority, and he knew it.